So I was told that people are just sick. They're just sick. I was told it's got to be 69 feet tall. And I'm going to explain all this, but I got to get, it's a vlog. I say this a lot here lately because apparently you got to tell people this is a vlog. It's an off-grid vlog, no less, with a tiny house. So here I am at my water tank. This is a 275-gallon water tank. And I'm going to show you how all this operates. But first thing that we got to do is I got to show you how to fill it, which I've talked about before. I'll try not to spend a lot of time on this. I'm pretty proud of my water setup. It's important that we do it the way we do it. I'm going to try to explain all of this. So it seems like every time I do something about water, I forget to mention something. And so somebody will say, well, why don't you do it this way? And hopefully I don't forget anything. So here we have a 100 and some odd feet well, 6-inch hole in the ground, and I've spent probably $500 rejuvenating this thing into a functional well. It's got a deep submersible well pump in it. It runs off 110 volt, which I can run off my generator here. This is a dual fuel generator, 2500 watts, runs off propane and gasoline. Here's the plug to the well. This is the old generator. This one's 2000 watts, and it could run it also. This one I can still start up, and I can start the well with it, but within 3 or 4 minutes it dies. So I've pretty much finished with that one. I'm not going to invest any more money in it. Now that Carolyn's son is here, I got to fill the tank about once a day. It's not too bad. The thing that's so cool about this is I drilled a hole in this black pipe. There's a black pipe right here, about 75 feet down. That way in the wintertime, when I shut off the well pump, that water will seep back down there 75 feet so it doesn't freeze. In order to do that, you don't want the water being sucked back through the hose. So I shut the hose off. Well, actually I turned this one on first. So water starts shooting out here. I shut the hose off, and then when I shut the well off, you can hear it suck in that water as it goes back down. It keeps it from freezing. And then of course this valve up here, it freezes, so I just take a little blowtorch and I heat that up, and it only takes about 3 seconds to heat it up enough to unfreeze that. I take this off, take it inside so it doesn't freeze, and then I run the hose down the hill so all the water's out of it so it doesn't freeze. One of the things I always forget to mention is the reason I don't run this off DC is because 2 reasons. One, you can buy a DC pump. It's a solar well pump. The thing is, it has brushes in it, and every few years you would have to take that pump up and replace those brushes. So I run AC electric through it. Now I can run this off my solar panels. I've showed you my new inverter. I actually had an old inverter. They're both 2000 watt inverters. The problem is that a day like this, it's partly cloudy. If one of those clouds crossed over the sun's path, then all of a sudden you're running off batteries. And since we run our freezer off the batteries, I don't want to risk not having enough battery power to getting us through the night. So it's just easier to run it off the generator, but I don't have to. I can run it off solar panels. It's just more work. So then I fill the water tank. And the water tank, like I said, is 275-gallon IBC tank. I, like in igloo, B as in boy, and I know I'm not using a military term for all those folks in the military, and then C as in like Charlie. So if you wanted to order one, I think you can order one just for a couple $100. They're not that terribly expensive. What is expensive is the shipping cost, but you can find these used everywhere. You want to make sure that it's food grade and it had food products in it. We have another IBC tank down there we made as a chicken coop, and it was used for like fiberglass epoxy or something, and it had a pretty strong odor. I wouldn't use it even after we cleaned it. But this one was used as a water tank. We bought it from somebody who was using it as a water tank. These little fixtures here come in metric and standard, so you gotta be careful which one you're getting. It's this one that says metric discharge, so when you order this discharge, make sure you're getting the right one. What I have here is I have an RV pump. This one's a really cheap RV pump. I think I paid $30 for it. I used this RV pump, or one similar to it I should say, when we were nomads. And so this entire assembly that you see here was what we used as a nomad. I took it off my nomadic system and just put it on a tank. So what I used to have is a bucket. Instead of this tank, there was a bucket here. and I would fill the bucket up with water. There was a hole in the side of it with a little discharge outlet, and then I could run in my water heater. Now the water heater is a camping water heater. It's an on-demand water heater, so it takes propane, and when you turn the water on, this pump kicks on, and then it kicks on the water pump. But you got to have a certain amount of pressure for that water heater to turn on. And the standard pressure is about 30 psi. So the RV pump works out really well. A lot of people have these little submersible pumps, and they use it for a shower. And they tell me to use that one because it uses like 2D batteries or something to run water. But it won't kick on the water heater. You got to have 30 psi. And I'm going to explain more about that in just a minute. Now, I told you earlier that in a previous video that I'm thinking about in the wintertime having Carolyn's son use the bucket system. So what you're going to have is an RV pump hooked up to a bucket. You fill the bucket up with water, and then it goes into his water heater. Right now you can see that I got it split off. Hose here is running to Carolyn's son's camper, and this one is running into the house. We have to be careful that we don't turn it on at the same time, because one of the water heaters wouldn't kick on, maybe both of them. I'm not even sure if they would stay on. If we had it on and was heating water and he turned his on, I'm not sure if it would allow ours to stay on. It may shut off, I'm not sure. So we just text each other, hey, we're getting ready to take a shower. Now, this box here is insulated, and we have ventilation coming in from inside the house. So the ventilation actually comes up over the shower right here, runs down in between the shower and the wall into the tank. Then I use a fan to blow hot air from the wood stove, basically, because it's above the wood stove, pretty much, into here. And so you can see, maybe, we've got chipmunks, so we got to be careful. You can see all the nuts the chipmunks are dragging in. So this ventilation brings in warm air in here and keeps all this warm to about -6 degrees. When it hits -6 degrees, well, I think -4 actually, then this has froze up last year. And we have all this insulation. I got hurricane relief blankets. My dad gave these to me. What is that? Red Cross gave these to him. And so I just lay that on top of here, and that keeps everything warm. Pretty good. In here I have a little thermometer remote control. So it sends a signal of what the temperature is in here to a thermometer inside, tells me what the temperature is in here. The pump runs off 12-volt battery. I had a couple options. The first option, I could have ran wiring from my truck camper, which is 100 feet away, up to here. The RV pump is 6 amps. It's not a lot of amps, it really isn't. But that far, the wire would have heated up. As a matter of fact, I used wire to run this pump when we were down in the camper, when we were building a tiny house. We had the IBC tank sitting out in the yard, and I just ran wire from the batteries inside the camper to the IBC tank RV pump, and it was just standard wiring. Probably it was this wire here, and it burned up. It was just too far away. So imagine the size of the wiring that I would have had to run wiring from the camper 100 feet up here. It would probably have been 4 or 2 gauge, 0 gauge. I don't know, it would have been huge. I'm not even sure what comes after 0. So what we did was I bought a little lawnmower battery, and I just put it inside the house. And so the lawnmower battery runs the RV pump. And what I do to charge the battery is I have this little battery tender. I think it's like half an amp battery charger. And what it's designed to do is for people like got troller motors on their boats, you just put those on there and it keeps your battery charged. Or if you have a lawnmower, you can put it on your lawnmower over the winter and just keeps them charged up. So when we're using the pump, of course we draw 6 amps, but you figure you only run the pump for 3 minutes. 6 amps is 6 amps an hour, it's amp hours. So you're not actually using 6 amps. You turn the pump on 6, 7, 8 times a day. Overnight it's charged. One time we had a pump burn up and it was drawing a lot of amps. And the way I discovered it was burning up was the battery tender in there started flashing. It usually flashes green, tells me that it's working, but it's charged. But it started flashing yellow. So it told me that the battery was low. So I came out here to figure out what was going on, and boy, that was hot. The pump motor was hot. I will admit these pumps burn out pretty quick. They only last about a year, and it actually says that in instructions that you should replace them each year. Now somebody's going to tell me to buy a bigger one or a more expensive one. The reason I don't is I know this one works. I like it. I don't know if I want to spend a more expensive one and have to go through the return process or whatever, try to figure out how to modify it. This one works. And I analyzed the price, $30 a year, and I figured, it's not that bad. I'm sure somebody's going to think that's a bad idea, and quite honestly, I don't care. This is just what I've decided to do, that I'm just going to replace it. There is an RV pump inside the camper. It does work. So if this one burns up, I might take that one out of the camper because there's no tank. It's completely disassembled in there. So I just might take that one out and put it in here and see how it does. So this pumps 30 pounds of pressure. I think at 3 gallons a minute, which is pretty adequate. It's not, the flow of a house water, but I'm pretty happy with it. Now, one of the things that's always asked is, how do you know what's hot wire and what's the ground wire? The instructions literally say it don't matter. You can put wire on each one. It is a one rotation. It only rotates, I guess, one way, or it doesn't matter what the rotation is. Whatever the case is, you can wire the red one to ground and hot. It just doesn't matter. I like this system. It's worked really well, and I don't have to worry about the water freezing. Yet, I've been told many times that I need to get a water tower and put the tank up there. Now, you have to think about all the problems. People don't think about the problems. For whatever reason, they think my solution is better. Maybe the $30, having to replace that pump. The first problem is I would have to build a water tower. People tell me to put it inside the attic in the house. I don't think it would fit because the attic isn't that big. But we have what? I'm not going to do the math, but it's 275 gallons times 8 pounds a gallon. What is that, 2,000 pounds? Let's just say it's 2,000 pounds. Again, I could get the calculator. So you put that up in the house and it falls in and it kills everybody. Then you have to think about water pressure. In order to kick that water heater on, you got to have 30 pounds pressure. I already said that. This RV pump provides that. In order to get gravity feed, that much pressure, you have to get it up pretty high in the sky. And guess what the magic number is? 69 feet. You can Google it. In order to get 30 pounds of pressure, you have to get 69 feet up in the air. So I have to build a structure 69 feet up in the air to get enough pressure to get water to come through the water heater. So now I have to figure out how to heat that. And people are going to say, well, what about solar heating? You're not going to get enough solar heating in the wintertime at night from freezing at nighttime. You're just not going to raise the temperature that much. When we're talking 16 degrees for a week, it's going to freeze. Whereas here, I can just keep pumping more and more hot air into it. 69 feet. I have to build a tower 69 feet. I'm not a welder. I don't even have the equipment to weld. I don't have the electric to weld. So I would have to build it out of wood. Probably 6x6s. I would have to dig holes and trenches. Imagine the construction cost on that. Also imagine the codes. I'm sure the code inspector is going to come out and say, what are you building there? Of course, I got to move the trees and all that. So this is going to become a huge project. And I'm not even sure I'm smart enough to engineer something that big to hold that much weight 69 feet up in the air. Then the other thing is now I've just added another 69 feet to my well pump. The well pump, I forget what it is. Maybe a 200-foot well pump. I'm not sure. It's not very deep. So now I got to add another 69 feet up. It's going to be a real struggle for it. I'm not sure it can do it. So all of a sudden, this simple solution is, so I don't have to buy an RV pump, which is not hard to do. I just get on the computer, a few clicks, and all of a sudden, a few days later, it shows up. I got this major construction project, and I have no idea how to keep it from freezing. When you're analyzing your systems, when you're trying to put all this together, you got to think about everything. And I get this a lot. Just the other day, somebody said, well, your stepson needs to get an electric blanket to keep warm, because I was talking about how we're going to try to keep that camper warm. Okay, so you solved one problem, how to keep him warm at nighttime when he's asleep, but where do I get the electric from? Nighttime is the hardest time to get electric because I don't have solar panels. because there's no sun. You got to think big picture. What systems affect the other systems? And for some reason, when people are making their suggestions, they're not looking at the full picture. You got to back away from the trees so you can see the forest. Oh, wintertime. Oh, batteries. Oh, electricity. Oh, I got to run wire all the way up here. So sometimes the simple solution is the best solution. And they call it KISS. Keep it simple. Well, they say stupid. 69, pretty perverted. So if you'll click this up next box, take you to a video where I was talking about not being fooled by fools. So I hope I can inspire you to look at the big picture so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.